I'm joined once again by Glenn Beck. He has a brand new special tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. It is how Biden-Harris gamble with Iran and Russia could lead to nuclear war. Be sure to stay tuned. The typical calm topic, soothing and relaxing.
Well, you know, this is probably the last time that we're going to be able to do a special on war. Donald Trump thinks this is the most important thing that people should be looking at. And nobody's talking about it. But he thinks it's the biggest threat, the possibility of nuclear war. And this will probably be the last time. We're what, 4 weeks away from the election? Mm-hmm. I doubt war, I hope, war is not the topic of conversation here. But we're going to show you how it all kind of started. And what the administration has done, what we're doing currently, and what Russia is saying, what Iran is saying, and asking you why are we giving money to Iran, and why do we keep violating the red lines pushed by Russia?
It's really interesting how infrequently that gets asked of any of the candidates. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I was yesterday they released the new numbers on the budget, and we're now up to $1.8 trillion in deficit for 1 year, and up to $4 trillion by the projected end of the 10-year period, which is, I think, pretty good. I mean, $4 trillion in a year. What's the big deal?
400.
Right, it's not 400 trillion.
Yeah.
That's really good. But I don't think there's been one question asked about that really, and then. War with Russia, we talked about this many times on radio. In a way, it's like by far the most important thing, right? Like they keep saying we're crossing these red lines. They keep saying, there's a report out today, they had credible conversations inside the Russian government about using nuclear weapons.
They will use nuclear weapons. They will. They will. We would too, if our sovereignty was challenged and we thought we were going to lose property, territory, and it could topple our regime, and we knew the Russians were behind it, and we said, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and they kept moving forward. Mm. If we had no options left and 500,000 people had already died on our side, yeah, I think we'd consider it and probably launch them too. You cannot challenge a nuclear regime with regime change and expect to just have them not use nuclear weapons. It's insane.
Is that where the Russian government is, though? I mean, to me, it looks like they're in a position of how much of Ukraine do they get. That's really the conversation. They're not in a position of losing territory.
That's not the way we're painting it. We're still painting regime change. Excuse me?
I mean,
you cannot do that and have... Putin's not going to sit down. If that's the goal... He knows if he cannot afford to lose. This is why this is so dangerous. He cannot afford to lose. If he loses, it could mean regime change for him, that he will lose a lot of power. Well, he's not going to do that. If we lose what? Total face around the world? That will destroy us. You have two superpowers that say, we must win. And they're both changing their nuclear doctrine. And quite honestly, I really believe one side is Malthusian. Reducing the population would be good for the earth. I really believe they believe that. That doesn't make a case for nuclear war, but it sure does for all-out war.
It's just shocking.
Shocking.
We have reports from Bob Woodward's new book, however, that Donald Trump has been like, they're basically pen pals. Vladimir Putin, they've been talking after he's left office. He sent him, did you see this? He sent him COVID test machines in 2020 while he was still president. That was the accusation in Woodward's book.
So should we not?
Well, I think
be a humanitarian and say, hey,
I think, it was for his personal use, right? Like, so they were saying when they were not available, Vladimir Putin's getting COVID tests, and, you know, theoretically, I guess the American people and the Russian people aren't. That was the accusation in the Woodward. Let me ask you more broadly about the Woodward book quickly, because I know this is not a huge, but I do feel like he's actually hacked the system in a way, because he doesn't say who any of the sources are. He doesn't even really give an indication. Everyone just has to believe him because of Watergate.
Correct.
So he can say literally anything in these books, and everyone just says, well, he's a legendary journalist. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't question him.
I mean, There be no corruption that would come from something like that. Ever. You're unchecked.
Yeah, unchecked
everyone trusts you. You're legendary. That leads to bad things. Yeah. Always. Yeah. Always.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so let me go to the race of where we are right now. We talked about this a little bit on radio today, but I think it's an interesting conversation because there has been a major strategy shift from the Kamala Harris campaign. Up until this point, she has not been on media at all, not doing any interviews. Mm-hmm. Suddenly this week, she's done like 11. And I don't know why that is, but it is definitely a change. And I feel like one that should be more widely discussed. What do you think is happening here?
Well, she might think that she is really good at relating to the folks, and anybody who says that cannot relate to the folks.
Right.
But she might think she's really great, and people would like to have a beer with her. But as evidenced on Stephen Colbert last night, she can't. She's not relatable. I don't want to have a beer with her. I don't know who would want to have a beer with her. She looked so very natural. So she might just be thinking that she's great natural. She might be thinking that, maybe some of the people who are backing her campaign are like, can you do some more here? Because it's too close. I'm hoping, and I have heard rumor of this, but I don't know. I don't know what to trust anymore. But I have heard that the internal campaigning numbers are not good. That they're not as far ahead as everyone's making it.
Not good for Kamala.
Not good for Kamala. And that would be, because this is a suicide. I mean, this is like, hey, let's get some Japanese planes in the air, and Kamala, you fly it. I mean, This is a kamikaze mission.
Yeah.
You're not coming home from this.
Is part of this the hurricane, the response in North Carolina?
So it's the worst hurricane response I've ever seen.
You were there. You went, right?
Yeah. Donald Trump has been there. She went in that really nice, vice presidential sealed uniform, standing in front of a house that didn't seem to have any damage to it, talking about how great $750 is. That's not good. That's not good. And now she's drinking a beer with Stephen Colbert as that's happening. Tonight, a hurricane is barreling into Tampa. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? The one who really looks good right now is Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis.
Sure.
They look good. They look like but you wouldn't know that from watching, the mainstream media. They're, Donald Trump is engaging in conspiracy theories. I was there. I haven't seen anybody from NBC on the ground in Asheville. It doesn't mean that they weren't there, but they weren't there the day I was. We haven't seen any of their reporters where the what do they call it? The hillbilly Air Force is.
Oh, the Cajun Navy.
We have 50 helicopters that our group is overseeing. 50.
Jeez.
We haven't seen any press there. They haven't asked us a thing.
Talk to me a little bit about what Mercury One is doing in these communities, because we've been doing this for so long. It's still, to me, is weird when these people come out and they're like, "Oh my God, we'd be toast if it wasn't for Mercury One." And it's like, well, wait, that's like Glenn. What do you mean?
It's like the same. My daughter, when she came to me, she was younger, Hannah, and she was a voracious reader, and she said, "Dad, you have to read this book." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, it's a #1 New York Times bestseller." And I said, "Well, your dad's had like 8 #1 New York Times bestselling books." And it like stunned her. She was like, "Oh." She walked away. It was like, it didn't build me up. It destroyed the New York Times for her. And I think that's, we're all kind of feeling like that. It's like, how is this even happening? But this is why Mercury One was started. Remember, my whole goal, that's why one of the reasons why it's called Mercury, after the moon mission and after the get people up into space, it was to send people back into their communities and teach them responsibility. and return them to those responsibilities in a 10-year period. Well, we're 12 years into it, and that's exactly what's happening. We're not actually doing things. We're providing the jet fuel. We're providing sometimes the bodies. Samaritan's Purse. We've shipped money and donations to Samaritan's Purse. We help people help themselves. That was our goal, and it's happening. I mean, I tell you, I think this is a dry run for the things that are to come.
Meaning more difficult times that we need to step up in? Or?
Yeah, earthquakes, wildfires, tornadoes, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's not because of global warming. I happen to believe that Christ is coming. Mm-hmm. Well, that'll mean there's going to be some turmoil. We have to exercise this muscle to get ready to help each other, to depend on one another, not on some government.
How do you view this arc, this relationship you've had with the audience that has manifested into so many incredible things? I mean, Afghanistan, we can go through the whole list, but we talked about it a little bit off the air, I think, on radio today. I mean, this audience has changed the world.
Literally, changed the course of many things. I don't know. It's the power of one that translates in the end to the power of many. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's all individually based. It's all about, somebody said to me, some broadcasters, they were legendary broadcasters, and I was giving a speech to broadcasters, this is about 3 months ago. And I said, the secret is, I care about my listener. I feel I know who they are, and I know when I'm talking to them, I'm talking to that one listener. That's why we're friends when we meet, because I know you. You know me. And they came up to me afterwards and said, "You are the only broadcaster." He said, we were sitting at a table, opposite sides of the table. We looked at each other. He said, because we have said, people always say, my listeners. They don't ever say my listener, my viewer. It's always plural. And I think that's one of the secrets is I believe in the power of the individual. I believe when I talk to individuals, I'm not talking to the mass. You know this, we talk about what does a person need to hear today, okay? And so the individual is empowered, and then together as a group, they begin to act, and they believe now that they can. I mean, remember when we said, we're going to go save people in Afghanistan? That's not even possible.
It did not seem possible.
22,000 people.
Yeah.
22,000 people in Afghanistan got out because this audience paid for the airplanes and organized on the ground to get people out. That's insane.
It's incredible.
Why they're so afraid of things like Mercury 1, because we know now, we have testimony that I can't wait to share, that the State Department blocked our planes at first from taking off because we were embarrassing the United States government and the State Department, okay? We're showing them we don't really need you. I mean, it'd be nice if you helped out, but if you don't, that's okay. We have this. And one of the things I said when we first launched Mercury 1 was, back under Hoover was the last time the government came in with truckloads of stuff into Texas. There was a huge hurricane. And the people met them at the border and said, turn your trucks around. We don't need you. That's what's happening now. Turn your trucks around. We don't need you. If you were here helping out, that would be great. But to try to swoop in now and take over everything now that we have it all running, no thank you. We don't need you. The other thing that's really important is the role of former military. These guys know exactly what they're doing. They know how to set operations up. They know how to rescue people. They know how to protect areas. I mean, these guys are amazing. The vets are about to play a very big role in helping people in the coming few years.
help if you can. Mercury1.org is the place to go. You can donate, you can volunteer your time, whatever you have in the reservoir would be great because it's with this thing happening in Florida, and God only knows what's next in the next few weeks, let alone the next few years. Your help is definitely going to be needed. Glenn Beck, the new special, is coming up tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's how Biden-Harris gamble with Iran and Russia could lead to nuclear war. Be sure to stay tuned. BlazeTV.com/Stu if you want to subscribe, and Mercury1.org to donate. Glenn, thanks.